Listen up! There is a storm coming like nothing you have ever seen, and not a one of you is prepared for it.
You guys know what this represents?
Tell us, sir.
Maybe it's the calm before the storm.
What's the storm?
Could be the calm before the storm.
The goal of a mass casualty event is to make order out of chaos. It will start with chaos, and it will end in order. The question is how fast we can get order out of the chaos and how quickly we can get help to the people who need it.
From the moment that the bomb explodes to the moment that there's a stampede of people trying to escape, the smoke begins to clear, but the disaster is far from over. And emergency first responders ensures that if it does, they'll be prepared. Dale Semach, I-24 News.
This
Hello, I'm Will Wheaton, and I am wearing a fez and a bow tie.
I started acting when I was 7. I was on lots of commercials and little TV, things like that.
Grew up here, right?
Yeah. Third generation Los Angeles native. Third generation Los Angeles native.
Child actors have problems.
Book signing with Jonathan Cahn, C-O-N, Con job, you're being conned. Tikkun International, Tikkun Olam, another gospel. A big giant con is coming at the what? Billy Graham Library. The JEWSs are with the Masons. They are all part of the same collective. Con, Baker, I don't know her name. Hinky, I think, or Hinkley or whatever. Robertson. I can't think of his name right now. Drop me a comment if you can think of his name. Graham. This guy just passed away. Can't think of his name right now. Weird name. Jacobs. Oh, I just did a video on this guy. Isn't this the Hayford, TD Jakes? All I'm getting right now is Orville, and that's not correct. Beth Israel Worship Center. They just had Baker over at that guy's university. Oh, wow. Con is known for opening the deep mysteries of Scripture. I thought that's what the Holy Spirit did. And bringing forth messages of prophetic import. He leads Hope of the World Ministries, an international outreach of teaching, evangelism, and compassion projects for the world's most needy. And he also leads the Jerusalem Center, Beth Israel, a worship center made up of Jews and Gentiles, people of all backgrounds outside of New York. So they've completely infiltrated America. This has been going on for a long time. I was hoping to be able to catalog his name, but anyhow, if you know who that is, drop me a comment. These people all are planning the demise of the world. That is a Masonic pose. This is Aleister Crowley, one of the most evil demonic humans on the face of the earth. And they're all prepping for the coming Israeli imposter king. And he can barely hold back his cockiness. Think like Islamic Masons is a good way to try to understand these people's role. See, they're all together in this conglomerate of evil. Okay, this sign here, yeah, you go, well, that's the Star Trek sign that Spock did, right? And this guy used to be on some of those types of programs. The name slips me, but I could care less at this point. But what you have to understand is that these Gentile Masonic fools that are in the order of worshiping Lucifer, the god of this world, they're daddy warbucks that puts big money in their pockets. They just have to hurt someone in order to get it, and they do, and they will. He has this very peculiar look on his face, and if I could crawl into the little folds of his brain, I would very much like to. But obviously I wasn't there when he took this photo. I don't know what he was thinking when he took this photo, but I am pretty into reading people's emotions and looks. And I think just a 3-year-old could understand that there seems to be a look of something really bad is coming. And here is my allegiance to the cons of the world. We are conning the world. There almost might be the slightest little milliounce of regret or sadness or obviously sincerity, but that we have to cut off the fat. And who is the fat? All of you who are not part of this elite group of special people, and they're millionaires, they're Jews, they're Gentiles, they're Masons, they worship their God. And just studying his eyes, his expression, his looks. I mean, he's not being cocky here in this moment. He's being very serious and intentional in this moment. And they are planning for depopulation measures unlike anything you have ever seen on this planet. And we know from the intelligence of the Bible that by the time you get to just the fourth seal, Antichrist, Jewish imposter comes, take peace from the earth, depopulation. Number 3, global famine, removing all the food, the water, the sustenance, the animals, all the mystery animal die-offs. They're doing that. They're hedging the bets. They're bets that you're not going to be able to go out and hunt and make it because there's some people that have that capacity to be able to do that. So they just take your food supply away now in preparation. You're in preparation right now for a coming evil that cannot be contained, and that God, interestingly enough, is not going to stop. No, he is going to let evil run its course and destroy itself. Very interesting to me. That is quite a delicious thought to think upon, because you would almost think that God would just come and say here and no farther, but in all reality, it's very interesting. God is telling a story about good and evil, and he has these little moving chess pieces of existence, and he will allow them to carry out their will. He has all kinds of plans, the Lord, but he is going to remove the restrainer. So God, through his people who hold back this level of evil, you're going to see what evil looks like that God tried to prevent for all these thousands of years and control in some way or another, those controls will not be in operation during this coming 7 years. People will actually see what turning away from God looks like. God is not going to save you from that when you're in it. He's going to let people see what it looks like that mankind will do, what Satan will do for those who are going to be here, for those that have not gotten into the ark of safety. He is going to let it fly, and there's going to be so much death. There will be a group of Jews a little later on that God does preserve, so I want to be really careful about my definitions here. But anyhow, this Jewish blessing, this live long and prosper thing, this goes back to Leonard Nimoy, who actually was a goddess worshiper. You might peg him as an atheist because of his character being so stoic on Star Wars, or Star Trek, sorry. But no, Leonard, who's passed away, was very much into the goddess, and he very much was into the whole exposure to the Jewish Kabbalah, Shekinah, and all of that. And so there's probably a whole bunch more research that could be done about this symbol and what it means. And I saw a picture of some priests putting this sign together, so both hands together doing that. And it forms a pyramid in the middle of their hands. But he has a very serious look here because he knows what's coming. There are probably literally millions of people that are in the know that know what's being set up, and you're in prep phase for that coming period of time.
Okay, without saying anything, just want to show you something.
That was about obnoxious. It's no wonder that your Masonic president is putting people that are either part of the Antichrist agenda who resist the Lord into massive positions of power. That is not by mistake. And then you also have Adam from No More News did a video quite some time ago discussing how there was a major Israeli feminine soul who was being put in charge of our technological infrastructure for security. So think like NSA, but maybe even probably more powerful than that. And they're all either Masons or Habatists. They're all part of a big con job that is being crafted. Yeah, I didn't have to put in much to find her. It was pretty easy. There she be, the most powerful woman in Israeli high tech, the director of R&D for Intel Israel. Intel Israel, responsible for a workforce of 7,000, talks about her special way of making decisions and how mentoring can help women advance in the world. And I want to see what her name is. In August of 2017, making her most senior woman in the country's high-tech scene, the director of Intel in Israel. That's a lot of power for an Israeli female to have. I wonder if she loves Jesus. I'm willing to bet you dollars to donuts she does not. Israeli Institute of Technology. She started her student intern in 2001. She rose through the ranks. Yes, Daddy Lucifer will do that for you. See, they come at you smiling. These Judases. I'm just skimming this article really quick to see if there's anything else I want to post out of it. Oh, that's interesting. Yes, we've discussed how the Me Too era is really about the rise of the female Kabbalist, goddess, Mother Earth, technological rise, and overturning of the patriarchal male Yahweh Christianity. We've talked about that. So it's pretty interesting that she's also discussing that. I'm just skimming through here to see if there's anything else that I want to harvest out of this article. Yes, digital conference. Everything is about going to this 5G, going to this digital age for these iron teeth of control, the global beast that is coming, which is both a system of control, but also a man who is in control of it all. Now, when you consider all these technologies that Israel has put on the planet, the cell phone technology, I don't know if I'll be able to read all that. Let me see if I can click on this and get back to this picture. So you just unassumingly trust, now it's even smaller. You just unassumingly trust that these people are for your good. But I would tell you that the hidden hand has your destruction in mind. And when they have their hand upon all these technologies, and you also look, here we go. Yay. Born in Israel, used in USA. And you might just think that's the technologies, but I think that there's a lot of people, either through our government or over here, that have all sorts of nefarious purposes. Look at this. The Microsoft Windows NT operating system. Remember back in the day, AOL Instant Messenger, it's software. Intel Pentium chip. Not really so much worried about that right now, but there will be far more technology advancing to trap you up. PC antivirus software, you know, they can probably honestly go into all of our computers at any point in time, any moment. And there are probably lists of Christians that are all over the planet for a hit list if God would allow it. The gut cam ingestible pill video camera to diagnose cancer. Something having to do with light, other various medical things. And so they hammer home on the point that Israel is innovation. I'm still looking for a particular video to ID if that is in fact the woman that No More News was talking about. But as I go through this, Benjamin Netanyahu's plan to rule the world, looking at this article, Israel wins second largest number of cybersecurity deals globally. When you start considering the fact that Israel and Tikkun International, the 70 nations, Sanhedrin, and that whole cacophony of trouble that is, raising up from Israel as the global capital of earth, the city of peace, Satan loves to invert things, and so he's going to use that as a staging area for taking over the planet. This is exactly the things that your Bible tells you would happen from the prophet Daniel, from the prophet John, from the prophet and God, Jesus. This is not unheard of. This is not strange. This is not weird. This is what the Bible told you to be watching for. And as much as there is this Israeli scenario of world domination, so do you have a ton of Gentile Masons who are helping to impact it, and they want to bring forth this chaos onto the planet so they can scrub the thin the herd down, scrub the unnecessary people, and this is really just to take over the vineyard. Look at this. From Jerusalem shall come forth cybersecurity. Yeah, I don't doubt that. Oh, wow. turn the curse into a blessing. Netanyahu wants UN of the internet. The biggest challenge we face with the cyber world is protecting privacy and security of the public. There could be a serious breach, he says. There should be a sort of UN for the internet. Total control. Yeah, in 1984, it was called what? The Ministry of Truth or something like that. It might have been a little bit less technological, but the power basically residing in the hands of the very few over the many, which always goes to the place of communism. Now, can you imagine techno-communism? A coalition of the leading companies in the cyber world. And in my opinion, Israel is the most advanced. Yes, exactly. So when you start looking at this beast, let me go get a picture. Cyber supremacy. The control. Let's go get here. These iron teeth that are coming is the way that the Bible described it to you. It's kind of all the best powers of all the most powerful kingdoms put together. And of course, they weren't going to be able to explain to you technology and iron and all that. So they're using these symbols for this one big giant Babel 2.0 from hell, the power of man on high. And Daniel is giving you some of the information. This isn't bad. I'm going to look at this one. Hold on. This global government. They're forming it. I don't know if I want to watch this whole thing. I'm pretty picky about my prophecy. So I'm just looking at images. I'm not endorsing anybody's sites or theology. I am really super, super picky about what I listen to. But anyhow, you have this multi-headed beast with all of these technological powers and advancements that give them the ability to enforce everything. You know, there was no way the Bible was going to sit and explain out to you technology, so it uses these symbols, like I said a moment ago. And a horn is power. So it's kind of fun to just sit. I say fun, but to sit and look at these pictures and try to conceptualize. I don't recommend them. But to conceptualize this new world order, globalism, techie nightmare from hell with this hellacious one world church from hell, all new world order, and then, you know, you could just, well, one of the horns, they talk about that being the Antichrist, that core entity on the very top, and much more could be said. It's really it's really this huge issue of all the world religions coming together, but it's all happening at the same time as this complete tech takeover, 5G, and there are certain entities who have created all of these implements along the way, and they will use them for forcing people into this Noahide. That's the big thing that you have to understand. Yeah, not only is it a huge money maker, but this is about power.
Domination.
Power and control, excuse me. Okay, very good. On this one, this is Noahide Laws, Prayer and Congress and Dance Party Outside, premiered on July 26th of 2019. The story that I was referring to a moment ago, this Orthodox Jewish woman named NSA cybersecurity chief, that's the story right there, and that's her. That's giving Chabadist Orthodox Jews a lot of power.
It's July 26, 2019, and
So think about how much time as they push this out farther and farther, how much time they have to plan. So, you kind of have to understand that the technology plus the Noahide plus the positioning of taking over the entire earth with all of, Babylon, Rome, Babylon, Israel, Babylon, Nar, Babylon, Masons, they're all part of it. Babylon, Islam, Babylon coexist. It's all part and parcel together to abuse this technology system and to drive people under the Noahide and to, you know, eventually murder them off through all different methods. I mean, by the four seals I started to say earlier, you've got 2 billion or whatever at that point, a quarter of the earth, we'll say. A quarter of the earth is dead. So Antichrist taking peace from the earth, global famine, and then disease, rampant disease and death. And they're setting up with these types of things now. Prophecy isn't way out there. Prophecy is happening now. It just hasn't come to its full culmination. But that day is coming. And so you have all these different, I'm really disgusted with the church leaders that are telling people that Noahide is fictitious and a narrative. I really appreciate, he's not a Christian, but I really appreciate some of his broadcasts where he goes in and he shows you the power that is taking over and positioning themselves like Judas's through this technology. And I appreciate Shaking My Head Productions warning about the coming, cataclysmic financial pins being pulled out from under you and the abuse of whatever exactly this narrative ends up being with Corona, whether that is legitimately a virus, whether that is a virus that in all likelihood probably was lab created by Chinese and very nefarious characters that are all working together in this structure that I already told you about within the Masons and all those hand-holding relationships of evil that want to take over the vineyard. There's so many aspects to this. The lying pastors that would tell you that the Jews don't have any harm towards you, nobody's doing anything, Noahide isn't real, and then things like this video where he goes over the dancing Israelis outside Congress having a little dance party outside. Well, they've got one of their guys inside, and I don't know this one, but he's from the Lubavitchers. So the Habadist Lubavitchers, they hate Jesus and Christianity, and this is Gershon Abtaz, and he's in the White House. So if this is fictitious and only narrative, as Paul Begley, Doug Hamp, Michael Heiser, Jason Cooley, so many people either attack it and say it's not real. Why are they in our White House? And why are they talking about Education Day and Noahide and these rules? Because you really are going to be forced under these iron teeth that are both technological, rule-based, obedience to Noahide at all costs. And that's what people need to realize. And you're just being set up for it.
Gershon Atzon talking about the 7 Noahide laws once again in Congress, as I've been covering a whole lot. The Moshiach, the Chabad Lubavitcher Orthodox end times prophecies, as well as the Zionist prophecies. But up on my channel, if you want to see more on Chabad Noahide laws, Moshiach, check out Chabad and Noahide laws exposed, Kabbalah supremacy Noahide laws and Chabad exposed, Trump's Kabbalah Tree of Life Award, basically all of these videos on the featured videos for, and I'll show you a little bit of background on the 7 Noahide laws after I play this, but here we go.
All right, but hold on. What you have to understand is that Adam doesn't read the Bible, so he doesn't know the Bible, so he doesn't understand the Bible. And when he pigeonholes end times beliefs only towards Zionist-oriented, pro-Israel, support Israel at all costs Christianity, he's not speaking for me. because I am not Zionistic in nature. But anyhow, right now, what it looks like they're doing, is pushing people towards this idea of going along with this New World Order scenario through the pressuring of whatever exactly is happening with the whole coronavirus thing, 5G knocking out people's immune system, and much, much more. It all goes together.
5th, 2019.
The House floor.
Order. The prayer will be offered by our guest chaplain, Rabbi Gershon Afson from Cincinnati, Ohio. Almighty God, Master of the universe, I invoke your blessing today on the members of this honorable institution, the House of Representatives of the United States of America. May they humbly serve their constituencies, aware that creating just legislation is one of the 7 laws that you, Almighty God, gave all humanity through Noah as detailed in Genesis.
Lies.
There it is, the 7 Noahide laws, as detailed in Genesis, except you look up Noahide laws and you look into it, and they actually admit it's from the Talmud. The 7 that they have is from the Talmud, and it's Maimonides, who is Ramban, one of the most famous Jewish rabbis of all time. He's the one that pushes the Moshiach, the 7 Noahide laws for the Gentiles. It's what Chabad and Rebbe Schneerson, who he mentions here in a second as well, talks about. And the 7, so he says that's the 7th Noahide law, is to establish courts of justice. You go to Noahide.org, Noahide.org, they go to the UN and stuff. You go to, here are the 7 Noahide laws, you go to courts of justice, and these are the sub-laws, because it's not just the 7 laws, there's also all these sub-laws, and however the rabbis want to interpret it. You go to 16th sub-law, that the court is to administer the death penalty by the sword, decapitation. So essentially, if you look into these Noahide laws, as I have, in the Messianic age, if you're not worshiping the nation of Israel as God's chosen people and doing everything to help them bring in the Messianic age and the Jewish utopia with their Moshiach, you don't bow and recognize Moshiach, it's off with your head. According to their own, they're open about it in their books. It's even on Wikipedia. And they consider, this guy, Maimonides, who says all this stuff, says that Christianity is idolatry, Jesus is idol worship, and that he deserved what he got. And this is, Ben Shapiro loves this guy, and Christians just, buy his book and support him, and Shapiro really hates Christianity, or at least he respects Maimonides, and Maimonides hated Christianity. And I tweeted out, if you've been following my work on Trump, Zionism, Anti-Semitism, Chabad, and Noahide laws, you would realize how disturbing this is, and that is that Fox News story, the federal government to resume capital punishment, schedule executions for first time. And if you look, all the people in this article that are getting it, some of them are like, quote unquote, white supremacists. I mean, they probably are white supremacists and psychos and mentally ill, but that's who they're going after. And I've already been talking about this because when the synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh happened, Trump gave this speech and he says he invokes the death penalty and anti-Semitism, which goes right along with these Noahide laws.
Yeah.
Through the centuries, the Jews have endured terrible persecution, and you know that. We've all read it, we've studied it. They've gone through a lot.
Christians and gypsies and political prisoners also went through the Holocaust and were murdered. Why is it that they subjectively only zero in on one group of people when in fact a tragedy was perpetrated against all manner of people? And it was in nation after nation. What did the Polish do to deserve what happened to them? Nothing. So he makes a lot of really good points in this video, even if he doesn't completely understand that there's end times believing Christians that do not support Israel, whatever she wants to do spiritually, politically, emotionally, religiously, etc., who very much do see an end times scenario coming, even though there's a lot of people that are trying to quash that and basically rewrite a whole nother scenario where this tikkun olam, another gospel, another age of peace and prosperity comes. through the Jews. And yes, they do want to replace God. And yes, they do want to bring about their Jewish Messiah. And that would be your Antichrist. And Israel and America are very much on par with the same agenda. And you really have to start to consider the FEMA camps that have been around from Halliburton and Dick Cheney. And when they do start utilizing during the tribulation, whatever it is that they're going to use to trick people into those, I think that the corona thing right now is just training your minds and seeding you into what will become the great pandemic for the fourth seal, later when the tribulation starts. This is prep until then. But anyhow, I will leave you a copy of this video if you want to look more in depth into it, because there's a lot going on. And it's really important for the evil side to pretend to be Christian and to pretend that Trump is part of this evangelical base of people, and they're really just Pied Pipers trying to lead you into destruction, which is why he's surrounded by all these NAR people. NAR is into the kingdom now. NAR is working with Israel. And there is quite a war coming between plastic Christianity and legitimate born-again Christianity. Much more could be said about that.
Chabad Lubavitch, anti-Semitism, the anti-Semitism agenda, the Israeli tech takeover, which is a major aspect of the Zionist endgame to rule the world according to prophecy from Jerusalem. I have this video on my website, Benjamin Netanyahu's plan to rule the world with advanced technology and cybersecurity. Watch that. Also, Chabad Lubavitch. Trump was getting Chabad awards. JNF Top Zionist Awards in 1983. Trump's Kabbalah Tree of Life Award. Here's a little on the Noahide laws. Chabad and Noahide laws exposed. That one was banned from YouTube. Kabbalah Supremacy, Noahide laws, and Chabad exposed, the Jerusalem conspiracy. And the Israel tech takeover. Here's the playlist that's on my YouTube channel. So I've been covering this a lot. And now with the story out today, the stories are converging with disturbing, devastating consequences. Chabad Lubavitch and the Israel tech takeover agenda are converging with this story here out of the Times of Israel today. Orthodox Jewish woman named cybersecurity chief for U.S. spy agency. That's Chabad Lubavitch Jewish woman named cybersecurity chief for the NSA. Chabad is in charge of the NSA if they weren't already via Unit 8200's merging with NSA and the Five Eyes. And oh, this is bad news, guys. Miss Newberger grew up in mostly Hasidic Brooklyn Heights neighborhood of Borough Park, which is right there near Crown Heights and Chabad Lubavitch. So she's Chabad, ultra-Orthodox, just like Kushner, just like Trump has donated to. Parents were among hostages rescued by Israeli raid on Entebbe. This Miss Newberger is going to head the United States National Security Agency's new cybersecurity directorate. She helped establish, she's worked for the NSA for the past decade. She is helped establish the U.S. Cyber Command, and she worked as Chief Risk Officer, where she led the agency's election security efforts for 2018 midterms. You know where Sheldon Adelson, who donated more than anybody to the midterms, he was watching the midterms with Trump, and their Chabad puppet was leading the agency's election security efforts. And now, as I covered in this video over here, Whitney Webb's article, where is it? Election Guard, that the elections are now going to be in control of Microsoft based in Israel, with Windows 10 doing the coding over there, and Intel factories and their chips, and all of it's moving over to Israel. So Chabad at the NSA working with it, not to mention that the former director of the NSA, has joined up with Team 8, a Unit 8200 think tank startup group, an Israeli startup group. That's where our NSA director goes to start. I've covered that in some of these videos where I've covered the Israel tech takeover agenda extensively. Back to the article. So she led the efforts for the NSA, and now Microsoft and Israel are going to take over from here, or working in tandem with DARPA and Election Guard as well. And it says here that her parents were on a flight that were hijacked by Palestinian terrorists in 1976, had helped shape her worldview. So she's vehemently anti-Palestinian, I'm sure, and pro-Zionist. She's 43, heavily Jewish Brooklyn, New York neighborhood of Borough Park, where she attended the Beis Yaakov Jewish Day School for Girls, according to Yeshiva World News. Again, an Israel firster, Chabad Lubavitcher, in charge of the NSA, in charge of cybersecurity, which Israel is dominating this. Not to mention, I just saw True News do a video the other day. There's legislation being passed through Congress where America is helping Israel set up a space force. A space force is Zio-Force. It's controlling the skies, and they're helping them have laser-based weapons, giving it all to Israel with their whole
laser-based weapons. So I don't know if you saw Plain Truth's channel, I believe it was called. He talked about the directed energy weapons that were being used to melt some things, but other things not so much, in the whole Paradise, California thing. Well, in Scripture, the false prophet, who I think the Pope of Coexist specifically communicates the same goal and agenda of what the false prophet will bring and do. And in Revelation, it talks about how the 10 kings, so some kind of set of 10, we're going to help rule the earth with the Antichrist people, are coming. And it says that they will burn the whore, that is the one world church, one world religion. Let me get this moved out of the way. With fire. And who is in control of these lasers? Are you getting this? Look at this. We'll strip her naked, eat her flesh, and burn her remains with fire. What weird translation is that? Oh, New King James? Okay, that's fine. So, can you see it coming? And then he reads this. She told the Wall Street Journal that the directorate will more actively use signals intelligence gleaned from expanded operations against adversaries. What adversaries? I would tell you, Christians. And anybody that doesn't want to go along with this New World Order, Jew World Order, whatever you want to call it, Roman New World Order. It's really all of these things together. Mason New World Order, Nar New World Order. It all goes together. This kingdom come, Tikkun Olam, completely different gospel that Paul said would be accursed. And there's so many people involved in it. No More News does good work, and he kind of hyper-focuses on the things that he hyper-focuses on, which is fine. But what I attempt to do is kind of to try to take it all and put it together and show you where the Bible told you it was going to go, and make sense out of the symbols, and make sense out of, people questioning, are we in the tribulation right now because of this corona thing? I would tell you no. I would tell you that this is prep being seeded into your mind that will be fresh in people's minds in the days to come, when it really does go live and they really do create a mass pandemic. But remember, at that point, it's going to be to wipe out life, not favor anybody in any way whatsoever. And that is a really good reason as to why during that time, that forthcoming tribulation of depopulation, why they go hide in the rocks and underground and all that Isaiah talks about and Revelation talks about, is because they want to hide from, obviously all the poison that they're going to put on the earth and all the disease and lasers and everything else. So they're going to think that they're hidden nice and safe in the earth, the aggression of all the people, the financial collapse, all the little bits and pieces that go together. They're just thinking they can go hide under the earth, but oh, sorry, excuse me. The Lord is still going to bring them correction, and that won't matter their level of hiding. But see, there's so many different pieces that go into this and support this coming destruction. There's so many parts to it.
He's a staunch Zionist, and we will get into the details of him because you have to know who is this position. Trump names Richard Grenell as acting head of intelligence. This position, the director of national intelligence, overseeing the nation's 17 spy agencies. So essentially the top spy in America. And wait till you see this guy's resume. The CNN says that he's formerly the ambassador to Germany, Richard Grenell. Now he's acting intelligence chief. Trump says he's pleased to announce and he highly respected ambassador to Germany, acting director of national intelligence. Rick has represented our country and Israel, more importantly, to these Zionists exceedingly well, and I look forward to working with him. Grenell's lack of intelligence-related experience is likely to unsettle the U.S. intelligence community, which has endured repeated attacks from President Trump since his 2016 election, whether over Russia colluded or not. People say Trump is looking for a political who will have his back. Grenell's primary qualification appears to be his loyalty to the president and to Israel. Wait till you see his background.
And to an antichrist rainbow agenda, evidently. See how Trump isn't a Christian? See how Trump demonstrates that his proclivities are not towards honoring the things of Jesus? Do you see it? Tell me you see it, friends. You got to see this stuff. Rip the facade off. Burn it. This is all about the truth here.
His resume. Another source says Grenell has zero intelligence-related experience. Clearly, the important thing here is that the president feels Grenell will do his bidding and the bidding of Israel and Zionism. And they're saying that this may just be nominated for a part-time position because the full-time director requires Senate confirmation. So we will see. And the New York Times, the top spy of all in charge of all the 17 agencies. And here's a little bit. Times of Israel, the Zionist Organization of America gives John Bolton the Defender of Israel Award. And scroll down here and you'll see about Richard Grenell as well. Oh, where is it? I had it highlighted. Grenell, here it is. So ZOA also gave its Brandeis Award to tech businessman and philanthropist Bob Shillman, and Dr. Bob Shillman Award for Outstanding Diplomacy to U.S. Ambassador to Germany, Richard Grenell. So Richard Grenell is getting Zionist awards as well, along with Bolton. From Shillman, he got the Shillman Award. Robert Shillman, you see here, he has a statue at the Technion University in Israel. Look at Shillman's resume. Shillman sits on the board of the Friends of the Israel Defense Forces, so the Friends of the IDF. That's who's in charge of our intelligence agencies now, thanks to Trump. The Jewish Foundation for the Righteous and the David Horowitz Freedom Center, so Marxist Zionist David Horowitz. He also funds James O'Keefe's Project Veritas. They're also funded by the Jewish Federation of New York. Front Page Magazines, that's David Horowitz's magazine. And Ezra Levant's Zionist Rebel News. Out of them came Tommy Robinson, Jack Posobiec, Lauren Southern, and many other Zionists.
Okay, he doesn't know. He doesn't know Brigitte Gabrielle. Wow. So she was the one that came really, really strong with the whole avoid Islam, avoid all that, blah, blah, blah. But, focusing the Zionist agenda of support Israel at all costs, when in all reality, at the end of the day, those two entities, at least at the top, are connected. And the whole 70 nations and Sanhedrin, it's all of this upper echelon of political and religious leaders together. And I think they're going to craft and create these wars between the followers in the days to come to aid in the depopulation goal that will probably honestly be multi-pronged on many different levels. Because when you want to wipe out the planet down to 500 million, if you're going to go by the Georgia Guidestones, you're going to need a lot of mechanisms for promotion of death. A lot. So, there's always so much more to the story than what the narrative is outlining for you. And I just find it interesting that Brigitte is being bankrolled by these entities. So here is yet again another person that, at one point I had trusted, but in all reality, they all form this veneer of pseudo-Christianity, pro-Israeli, evangelical nonsense that are actually the very people that are bringing about the biblical end of days. They're liars. They're vile. And there's many of them, and they're just dragging people along to this giant one world religion nightmare. It's such a game that's being played. It really cracks your mind into to consider it all. So remember, they're using this idea that you can graft the Gentile nations into Israel as your Lord and Savior, really, is what is happening here. And they are crafting a war between fake plastic Christianity, headed up by Kanye and Justin Bieber as their major people that they have in the forefront, as well as many other fake Christians, all NAR related. And there's a NAR Israel, and at war with actual legitimate true Christians. And sadly, the true Christians, many of them actually don't even realize that this war is being proclaimed. This is pretty telling because he's going to be really honest.
Johnson, Jeremiah, how old were you when you first started getting prophetic dreams? Hello, sit right here. Welcome to my world, where it's naturally supernatural. I have read of the great men and women of faith. One in particular intrigues me so much. His name, Smith Wigglesworth. He had some of the most outrageous miracles I ever heard of in my life. Let me give you one example. Some parents had a 2-month-old baby dying in the hospital. The parents kidnapped the child, took the child to a Smith Wigglesworth meeting, and Smith looks at the child, looks at the parents and say, "Can I do what God tells me to do?" Well, what would you do if you were the parents? The child's dying anyway, right? He takes the baby, 2-month-old, throws the baby against the wall. The baby. Then the baby's on the floor. Have you ever seen someone play soccer? Have you ever seen them kick a soccer ball? He does that with the baby. The baby falls into the congregation. No crying. Is it dead? 100% healed.
I was 7 years old, Sid. My mother actually received a dream while she was pregnant with me to name me Jeremiah, so you were very prophetic there.
Well, Jeremiah, for those that aren't familiar with you, tell me a few prophecies that you clearly said before the fact that have already come to pass.
You know, about 6 months ago, I had a wild encounter about a man named Kanye West. And 6 months ago, I had put online, I'd had this wild dream where the Lord said to me, just as I have raised up Donald Trump as a wrecking ball to the political arena, so shall I raise up Kanye West as another wrecking ball to the religious arena. And in this dream, there was a massive gathering, and on the platform was Donald Trump, Kanye West, and Justin Bieber. And as they began to speak to the crowd, it was at a church, it was a 50-50 split. And what I mean by that is half of the Christians were enraged. And the Lord said to me, even as I've raised up Donald Trump, I'll raise up Kanye West, I'll raise up Justin Bieber to drive the religious spirit out of the church. And I believe that there's a coming move of God that the church isn't ready for, but in 2020, we're going to be ready for it, Sid. And it is this out-of-the-box revival. So I went online and I prophesied, God is going to raise up Kanye West as a wrecking ball. It was just months later when literally in the news, Kanye West comes out with this album, this conversion. And here's what the Lord said to me, and I really want our listeners tonight to tune in here. God said, I have given Kanye West as a gift to Donald Trump because he is going to win him votes in the African American community that he needs to win the 2020 election.
He didn't know about it. He called over his people. He's got 10 people standing behind him. Everyone is central casting. Central casting. Glasses.
I'm Presbyterian. Boy, that's down the middle of the road, folks, in all fairness. I mean, Seventh-day Adventist, I don't know about.
2 Corinthians, right? 2 Corinthians 3:17. That's the whole ballgame.
I like to do the right thing where I don't have to actually ask for forgiveness. When we go in church and when I drink my little wine, which is about the only wine I drink, and have my little cracker, I guess that's a form of asking for forgiveness. And I do that as often as possible because I feel cleansed. Have my little cracker.
And in this dream, there was a massive gathering, and on the platform was Donald Trump, Kanye West, and Justin Bieber.
Glasses.
Boy, that sounds like an unholy trinity to me.
Pretty much.
Graduating into. This is what I want to talk about today with you for a few minutes. To lead in shaping a new world order for the 21st century.
This July, have your voice be heard.
I purged.
I purged.
I purged.
I purged.
I purged because staying in is un-American.
Don't let your freedoms get taken away.
I purged because it's my civic duty.
Show your support.
I purged for my family.
For the purge.
I purged to keep my country great.
The Purge election year.
Every day between now and November to elect more Republicans so that we continue making America great again. And by the way, this is the first for Indiana. Our new slogan for 2020, you know what it is? Keep America great.
For the purge.
I purged to keep my country great.
All communications are down. The government is silent. We don't know who or what is causing this.
Nothing happened the way it was supposed to happen. 7 billion people on Earth when the infection hit.
There was so much chaos after the outbreak.
The outbreak caused a huge sell-off in the global stock market. South Korea is no exception. The Kospi dipped below the 2,000-point mark, and Wall Street was also down for a 6th straight day. Here's Kim Mo-kyun with a breakdown of the numbers.
South Korean markets were gripped again Friday by fears about the spread of the coronavirus as foreigners continued their selling binge for a 5th straight session. The benchmark Kospi closed at 1987 on Friday, down 3.3% from the day before. This is the first time the index has finished below the psychologically resistant level of 2,000 points since last September. It was another of the massive sell-offs by foreigners that began on Monday. The tech-heavy Kosdaq also nosedived by 4.3% to close at 610.7, while the Korean won gained slightly against the U.S. dollar, closing at 1,213.7. An expert in the industry says investors just aren't sure how the authorities will handle the outbreak itself and the economic fallout.
Clearly, the decline of the prices has been quite severe. The peak recently was in January. It went up as high as 2,277. Now we are at 1987. So clearly more than almost 300 points decline. So if you calculate that, that is more than 13% decline from the peak to bottom. The main reason for this is that people are uncertain about the policies as well as the government stance on this.
Stock markets in the U.S. have also posted some of their worst ever losses on Thursday local time. The Dow dropped nearly 1,200 points on Thursday, in the worst one-day drop in history in terms of points. The S&P 500 posted its worst day since 2011, losing more than 4% to 2,978. The Nasdaq also fell 4.6% to 8,566.
Today, you've seen the stock market, it went down 800 points, then it was only down about 200 points, and the last time it was about 600 points. And what that's telling me is that the situation is very fluid, and any information that's coming out is there's an overreaction.
With the number of coronavirus patients increasing around the world, the instability in global markets is likely to continue. Kim Mo-kyun, Arirang News.
So, you want some of my electricity, do you? Well, for once, the rich white man is in control. I have 2 buttons behind this desk. One will supply your town with power, the other releases the hounds. Reach me. Make me your brother.
The hospital's generator is about to give out. Lives will be lost.
Lives lost. Go on.
We got a convict we were going to fry tomorrow, but now we can't.
Tempting. Tempting.
Look, all our reasons mean nothing. Just look into your heart, and you'll find the answer.
First door on the right.
Thank you.
Now, we know one of the most astonishing stories of Rothschild wealth revolves around the Battle of Waterloo, in which Nathan Rothschild used his inside knowledge of the outcome and his faster horses and couriers to play the market by getting the results of the battle before anyone else knew the outcome. And I'm reading this article from darkpolitics.com. As many of you know, Nathan Rothschild caused a sell-off in bonds and gave all the traders who looked to him for guidance the impression that the French had won at Waterloo. The other traders also rushed to sell their bonds, causing a 95% decline in their original worth. And once the bottom had dropped out, Nathan Rothschild then rebought as many bonds back as he could at hugely discounted prices, and in doing so he multiplied his wealth 20 times in just 3 days of trading. Now, that history was shared in the 1934 Hollywood movie, The House of Rothschild, which was backed by the Rothschild family.
Bye. Yes, bye. Have you had any news? What do you think about this rumor? I don't listen to rumors, Mr. Baring. You hear what they say? Wellington defeated. You mind telling me what you're going to do? I have no objection to all London knowing what I'm going to do. I'm buying.
So that very important history is on the record.
This July, have your voice be heard.
I purged.
I purged. Show your support.
I purged because it's my civic duty.
For the purge.
I purge because staying in is un-American.
This is your emergency broadcast system announcing the commencement of the annual purge. The soul of our country is at stake.
The senator's going to win. She's going to make real changes.
The purge has to come to an end. At the siren, all crime, including murder, will be legal for 12 hours.
Senator, let's begin lockdown.
All emergency services will be suspended. Your government thanks you for your participation.
We're going to use this year's purge to do something about that senator.
We're being hunted. Go, go, go! We are on our own.
My God. How did it get to this?
What you doing outside on purge night, Senator? Come with us. There are threats everywhere. There's death everywhere. Y'all need to see this. We have one goal: survival. Purge and purify. Purge and purify. Purge and purify. Anything coming? Run.
So notice the stuffed animals. They also, a little bit farther back, had another stuffed animal. It goes back to this idea of, you know, hidden motives, the hidden hand, that which appears innocent, but when you pull the cover back, when you rip the facade away, there is evil standing there. Now, what singer can you think of who does rapper albums with a stuffed animal facade? Kanye? See? Do you get it? So I'm going to show you this too.
Your participation.
Okay, look, you've got the masked mirrored figure right here. Okay, well, who does that remind you of? This is their typical Mason messaging through symbology, the hidden hand, the motive that you don't know about. And they even use this, one of these pictures, I don't recall which one, for a Bible conference for children that they were doing. So on the onset, this might just look weird, and it is, but this is not without meaning. And wow. Yeah, masked religion. Yeah, no kidding. And is he wearing a skirt right there? Because that's very Kabbalah. That looks like a skirt to me. The picture of this album cover, it's pretty interesting. It looks like this innocent figure is being launched out onto the masses. And then what is this back here? This kind of reminds me of a judicial scene back here. And then a very non-threatening, all-seeing eye. I wonder what else could be said about this. The world is so being deceived. So anyhow, much more could be said, and this video here, the Keep America Great Tour Exposed, kind of shows a lot going on with the planning stages of these demonic entities that want to hurt you in and through government, and it has a very interesting track of thought, and it really shows the hidden hand of manipulation behind it. From one particular nation they're focusing on in this video, who is, getting away with murder, worshiping their god of greed. That's pretty interesting as I kind of just poke through this, a little game of lies that's happening here. So I will put a link in so you can look at this in more totality if you wish to, but it really just shows this entity as being a very lying, deceitful person and playing the game, and they're trying to establish and bring that forward to help you understand how it's happening now. And then they do a really good job of overlaying, the whole financial issue with the coronavirus issue, with the coming of the takeover from this group of entities with the Helioflex or whatever it was called, pet goat.
Biggest market disruptor, the coronavirus, is the biggest market disruptor we have seen in recent years.
That's right. We are off the opening lows nonetheless right now, on pace for the worst day since last August, when trade fears really hit this market.
The massive stock market plunge, this outbreak is beginning to have a real impact on the economy here and around the world.
The Dow is now down nearly 900 points. That is just over the course of the last 34 minutes since we have been on the air.
The global sell-off is what's really contributing to the momentum here on the downside. Among the worst performers today, obviously over in Italy, where they saw a big spike in the numbers, and as well in South Korea. Those are two of the biggest outbreaks outside of China.
Stock market, and you were warned it was going to be a rough opening on Wall Street this morning. Stocks actually around the globe have been really taking a hit. The U.S. stock market futures takes a dive over fears of a spike over the global threat of the coronavirus.
I'll be back. The next time I'm back, I may not be wearing a suit.
Obama is not the Antichrist, nor is Trump the Antichrist. They're just many helpers along the way. But know that there is a lot of financial manipulation happening so that the people at the very top can benefit, is the basic synopsis point of this video, and that they are also preparing and have sung about it in songs and whatnot for these 4 horsemen that are coming. This is a pretty good video.
Like a train on a track, coming towards her, stock still, no turning back. She hear around the corner and she eat on their beds. She killed the kisses, then for honest she fled. With every bubble she sunk with her dream and washed it away down the kitchen sink. The dark days are over, the dark days are done, the horse days are coming, so you better run. Run fast for your mother, run fast for your father, run for your children, for your sisters and brothers. Leave all the loving behind. You can't carry it with you if you want to survive. The dark days are over, the dark days are done. Can you hear the horses and here they come?
You said that you don't like to fly commercial because you don't want to get into a tube with a bunch of demons. Do you really believe that human beings are demons?
No, I do not. And don't you ever say I did.
I think that this is a perfect way to make Christianity look insane because of these Masonic stooges. There are Masons literally everywhere. But I think the point they're bringing out here is that he doesn't want to be in closed quarters with other people because of this virus or whatever it is, and the 5G that can knock the immune system out. So now you have Justin Bieber at Kanye West Sunday service for this plastic Christianity. Um, and Kanye is friends with the president. These people are all Masons. And here is Justin Bieber's very last video he did called Yummy, which is weird. And he's wearing pink hair, pink lipstick, pink clothing. So, start to figure it out. So we're wrapping up here because this is getting a little long. But when you turn to the King of Kings Worship Center that hosts Lance Wallnau and a bunch of other NAR people, and their message, for example, here is by Chuck Pierce, Apostles and Prophets Establishing the One New Mankind. And it's a ripoff. It's a counterfeit like everything else is. Counterfeit kingdom, counterfeit spirit, counterfeit gospel, counterfeit Christ coming, counterfeit church. It's all counterfeits. They also have this counterfeit One New Mankind, and it will be this techno witchcraft humanity 2.0. But remember that there's also a, same entity, just looked at in a little bit different way, a false bride, a false church, an apostate church composed of all world religions, and they're going to call it the body of Christ. And they have this fake Christ coming, and this is your Babylonian whore, and this whole battle that is being crafted and is just going to intensify. So I invite you to check out all of my videos. I have a lot of videos on here, and they all tell a different little piece of the puzzle of what's going on. I thank you, and God bless you. Last line from watchuntoprayer.org, MacArthur 7 Druid Festival. Rabbi Shapira is a modalist, which is one who conflates God the Father and Jesus Christ. His book, The Return of the Kosher Pig, is setting up the Jewish people, and I would say everyone, to receive a false Messiah, another Jesus. Yeshua HaMashiach, who is non-fleshly, heavenly manifestation of God rather than the incarnate Son of God.